know, we're getting to that mature age where the South has sounded better.
If you want to join me, we'll stand for the pledge. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the November meeting of the Philipstown Planning Board. I'm Neil Toman. I'll be sitting in for Chairman Zuckerman today, who's down in Washington, I guess. Yes. He's with the doing his bit for the NPR. We have a roll call.
Sure. Kim Connor.
Here.
Dennis Gagnon.
Here.
Peter Lewis is not here. Laura O'Connell. Here. Neil Toman.
Here.
Heidi Wendell. Here. And Neil Zuckerman is not.
Okay. And can I get a motion to approve the October minutes?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Nay? No. Okay, so we have some housekeeping to do in the way of correspondence, and let's see, we have a referral. Ron, do you want to bring us up to speed on this referral from the Conservation Subdivision, Hudson Highlands Reserve?
Sure. Hudson Highlands Reserve has gone through an EIS process with this board. It culminated in a finding statement to permit the project to move forward. At that point, they initiated activities with the town board because they needed multiple approvals from the town board. Most basically, it was they had filed a petition to rezone some property along their frontage from M to RR. That is in progress. And as part of their application, they also were seeking some relief to town road standards for the initial stretch of road that leads into the project from Route 9. They're asking for relief to exceed the 10% maximum road grade to go to 12%. That does require town board action. The 12% issue was a matter that was thoroughly studied in the EIS process, but they need a formal action from the town board to permit that to happen. After those actions are taken by the town board, it'll come back to the planning board to further process the application. So at this point, they've filed a request for the relief necessary to go to 12%. That matter has now been referred from the town board to the planning board for comment. And I think tonight it just would be appropriate for this board to refer it to me to prepare a formal analysis for you and the town board to understand the impacts of that.
Okay, and then we read that and we'll come back with our comments and our feedback from that
Right.
report. All right, so any thoughts on this before we ask Ron to?
I'll make a motion that Ron prepare that.
Okay, any comments before that? Any comments before? No, okay. Then all in favor of Ron preparing this? Oh, need a second. All those in favor? Ron preparing a memorandum? Okay.
Aye.
Very good, and I vote aye. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm opposed for the same reason I've opposed the project throughout the process. I don't think the town should extend this privilege to the project because it's not a conservation subdivision, so.
But he's just going to give us standards so that we can evaluate that, and talk about it next time.
I understand, but I'm just registering an objection to the, as usual,
Okay.
to the project.
Noted. Okay, thank you, Ron. Next up, we have a letter from Badey and Watson requesting a second 6-month extension for Riverview Industries. Jason, are you here to comment on that, or? Margaret, how are you?
Hi, Margaret McManus from Badey and Watson. We've been working with them and his attorney on a maintenance agreement between the town about the oil separator in the catch basin. So it's just been taking longer than expected, and we're ready for the DOT is ready to give us a permit. So as soon as we get that hammered out.
I'm sorry, back up for me a little bit, Margaret. You're waiting on you have a you're waiting on a catch basin or a filter for a catch basin?
No, we're waiting on a maintenance agreement between the owner and the town about how often he's going to maintain it and any kind of repercussions that would happen if he didn't maintain it. It was requested, I think, by the Conservation Board.
All right. Any comments on this before we vote to, we got to vote to grant the extension?
Yeah, the first 6-month extension is as of right. After that, they're discretionary. But assuming that there's some reasonable basis and there's been no significant change in circumstances, you pretty much have to grant it. So,
This is the first one or the second? There's a second one, so.
but I mean, from what I've heard, they have a reasonable basis, and certainly there's been no change of
Okay.
circumstances. in
And
the
it's,
6
and
months.
it's waiting for an action by the DOT. It's not inaction on the applicant's part.
Right, the
Right.
DOT is ready to, they've acknowledged that they're ready to sign,
Okay.
so
And
we
then we're
know
gonna-
that the process is, we're almost there.
And then we're gonna go,
Yes,
and we're gonna be ready.
well, yes.
Okay. This application is moving at the speed of a glacier.
Yes, it is, I understand.
Okay. All in favor of granting the 6-month extension? A motion, sorry. You can tell Neil's not here. Motion. Right. And the second? I'll second. Okay, all in favor of granting the extension? Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Kingsley. We've got Kingsley, Dain, and Garrison Country Club. So Kingsley.
Jason Snyder with Badey Watson, representing the applicants Ian and Forrest Kingsley. We've gathered the additional information that was requested from the school district on the school bus runs and the exact times and locations. That's been presented by both myself and summarized again by Ron. Based on that information, there should be no conflict between the traffic associated with both businesses and the school bus runs.
Okay. Ron, any comments on where we are?
Again, just
I
a-
was not here last month, so I'm kind of winging this a little
Yeah,
bit.
just to refresh the board, the public hearing on the project was held last September. There was much public concern raised over the potential of conflicts between school bus activity, children, pedestrians operating along that roadway, and the entrance of this project right at the Mountain Brook Road intersection. At last month's meeting, there was again significant discussion over potential mitigation that could be offered or would be appropriate, and it was deemed necessary to obtain information from the Haldane School District. That's now been obtained by the applicant. It's been filed with this board, and based on what the representations made by the school district, transportation director, as well as commitments from the applicant as to business activity into and out of that site if it's developed, there appears not to be any conflicts between those activities, between the bus route and the business activity.
Okay, good. Any comments from the board?
I just want to say this was very helpful, and being able to see where the school bus is in relation to the road, also very helpful, because it's distant from the intersection, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Dennis?
No, actually, I saw there was no conflict with the times, and according to the highway superintendent, that's actually the best spot for the driveway, so.
Laura?
No comment.
No comment. Heidi?
Nope.
All right. Thank you for the information, Jason. It seems as though we've been, there has been an effort on the part of the applicant to make some changes with this application along the way, so we appreciate that. I know I asked you to change the roof line, and you changed the roof line. Okay, so, Ron, recommendations, are we ready to prepare a resolution for
Yeah, if you now believe that the issue of potential conflicts between pedestrians, school children, and business activity have been resolved appropriately, then you may wish to direct that resolutions be prepared for next month's meeting for consideration of action.
Okay, can I get a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Can I hear a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and I vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. All right, next up, we have Dain's Lumber.
That's visible for everybody. Does that work?
Does it need to, Cecilia, do you need to be able to see it?
Well, it's preferable you guys see it, but if you've seen it already, you can fix it on.
Right.
We've seen it.
Yeah, it's okay. It's tough with the height of this. There's no real
Yeah.
easy way to do it. Yeah.
Awkward corner. Okay. Okay. Good evening. I'm Adam Thyberg from Insight Engineering, Surveying, Landscape Architecture, PC, here representing Dain's Lumber. I'm also joined by James Dain of Dain's Lumber. Since we were last before you, we've provided a lot of additional material for your consideration, including a full EAF, building elevations, as you see here, the revised site plans with updates addressing some of the engineering comments and further advanced grading and drainage concepts. We've also provided a statement of use, which should clarify the intent of the project over the two phases that we've discussed. All uses are accounted for with regard to parking and other requirements, and all the proposed uses are permitted within the highway commercial zone. Employee counts, utility requirements, and other details are discussed in the statement of use. So for tonight's meeting, we're hoping to receive a fresh round of comments. We received Ron's memo, so we'll be working on those items, certainly. And we're hoping that the board will move forward on seeker, declare your intent as lead agency, make the necessary referrals, and classify the project. And of course, we're happy to respond to any questions you might have.
Okay. Okay, so this is the property that, where did we get with this? With there was an approval?
Yeah, so this
Okay.
is an amended site plan for 3622 Route 9, which
Okay.
was before you last year, was approved in October of '21. And so this is an amended site plan for that previously approved site. As you can see, the layout, or I'm sorry, you can see on this one, the layout is quite similar. The set of uses is quite similar. We just have a specific user and a more specific set of uses for each building for this amended site plan.
It looks like smaller square footage than the last.
Yeah, these
than the
buildings
last
are,
application.
as shown and as designed here, are smaller than the buildings that were approved as part of the original site plan from '21.
Ron, you want to make any comments on this?
Sure. The board originally heard the project for the first time at last month's meeting. However, the project plans were felt to be too conceptual in nature to move it forward. The submittal for this month's meeting is much more comprehensive. So they filed appropriate documents for you to better understand the project. As just was described, this development proposal is less intensive than what has previously been approved for the same site. So it's now a matter for the board to consider whether you want to start moving this process forward. There's a variety of actions that you should be considering. The first thing is just to classify the project as a major project. That could be done tonight. You can then consider action on seeker. The original project was given a coordinated review, and it'd be appropriate, since this is an amended site plan, to perform the same review process for this latest development. So you should classify it again as an unlisted action pursuant to seeker, and declare the board's intent to act as lead agency, so you can accomplish the necessary seeker distribution.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Steve, you want to weigh in on anything here?
No, it's pretty much what Ron said. I mean, did they get their, DOT was the other involved agency, Ron?
The project has just started. The DOT was ready to act on the prior application, but
That's right.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure which is.
They did not act on it. Wasn't that one of the?
They haven't issued the highway work permit. They've indicated from a design standpoint that they're prepared to issue an approval, or the highway work permit, once the necessary administrative documents are filed on the contractor, insurances, things of that sort.
Which means they're still an involved agency, so it's appropriate to circulate for lead agency. So
Oh, no, absolutely right.
He's absolutely
We're
right.
still involved. We still need to do the county planning referrals.
Oh, the only other thing I had, I'm sorry, Ron, I didn't mean to cut you off. He's right. The county planning, DOT. Do you want to refer to the fire department? Was my only other question.
Did we do that last time?
No, this would be courtesy referral, but it's going to be a lumber yard, so I thought maybe.
Ah. You keeping track of these, so when we go to make the motion, we got them all listed? It's a good one. It's a good one. We got like 4 things in there. All right, any comments from the board? No? Okay.
I guess the only question I have is, are we going to want a site visit? We've been there.
We've been there.
We drive by it all the
We've
time.
been there
That's what I was just gonna say,
several
we've been there.
times.
Yeah.
Is that
You didn't
a-
change the site anyway. Yep.
Nope,
Still the
site
way
still
it
looks the
was
same way it
last
did
year,
a
right?
couple years ago when you were there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only
A
thing
year-
that's
year or
kind
so.
of different is the fact that there's gonna be a retail use, right?
That's correct. That's the main difference in the 2 applications. The originally approved site plans contemplated use that we defined as contractor office and storage that was to be throughout the site. In this amended site plan, we'll have purely a storage building in the rear. The 7,000 square foot building in the rear will be purely for storage. And the building, the phase 2 building in the front will be segmented or sectioned off. One half will be a retail, hardware, building materials, retail facility, and the other will be, the other half of it will be the previously proposed and approved use of the contractor office and storage.
So do we have a motion for a site visit? Okay. I don't care if we'd have one either. The only question I had, I seem to remember this from the pre-app meeting. Those are, which is the phase 1 building and which is the phase 2?
So,
Excuse me, just grab the mic if you want to take it over.
So the phase 1 building would be, I'd like to show you on the site plan and on the elevations at the same time, but the phase 1 building would be the building in the rear, and that is the elevation that you see along the top of the architectural sheet. And the phase 2 building would be the building in the front. That would be the one that would house the retail facility and the contractor offices and storage. That would be this building here.
And the back building, I think we talk again at the pre-app meeting. You have phase 1 and you have phase 2. Is there any plan about expanding the building in the back eventually? Or is this kind of it? You feel like this is it? You're not gonna outgrow this in 2 years or something? No, phase 1 is set. Okay, so you're, okay. So we try to get, make sure people are not back in 2 years with, well, we need to do this, we need to make an amendment. Okay, so we're ready to make, Oh, sure.
Are you gonna keep the trees, you know, when you look at the property, facing into the property, you're still gonna keep those big trees that are on the right-hand side? That
Right,
were
so-
like right next to the stormwater system? Yeah.
So the stormwater at this point is almost is basically identical to what was approved previously. That needs a little more fine tuning, but we don't foresee it getting larger or having to expand into that area. So that side of the site is essentially identical to what was previously approved.
And then I assume like the kind of screening trees along the back that protected the residents that live behind the property from seeing that property are still gonna be?
We're still showing that row hedge, yeah.
Sure. Laura?
So just a question from a process standpoint, and I guess this is more for Ron. So this is just kind of the initial stage because we have an approved plan through the initial, and then there's going to be modifications. So we're moving ahead to allow them to go ahead, and then at some point, are we going to see the revisions to the original approved versus what they're proposing today?
No, the original approval is going to become null and void once this amended approval
Got it.
for the same site is approved or acted on.
Okay, so I'm just saying because, like, for example, the traffic study, you know, is reflective of the previous use, and so
Right.
therefore there's going to be a new traffic study, and so this is just the beginning of this process.
Exactly, exactly. And you'll get better definition of traffic and those other issues for this specific activity
Got it.
as the project proceeds.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else, Dennis? Sorry? No? Okay. So we have can I hear a motion to declare the project as a major project? Can I stack all these in one? Okay. Project as major, have unlisted action, declare it an unlisted action, declare ourselves lead agency, and give referrals to the fire department, county highway,
No, state DOT and
State
it's county
DOT.
planning department.
county planning, DOT, fire. Okay, that's
Is that
it.
one motion? Is that what we're
This
hearing?
is it. We're gonna do it all in one thing, Ron.
Okay.
I'll make,
No messing around.
I'll second that.
Second? This is, moving along. Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Thank you.
so, Adam, I just want to ask you one question. Just going forward when you redo these plans. The lighting on the outside of the long building seems to be both upward and downward.
Okay.
And we have dark sky compliant.
Yep.
Yeah,
We'll get into that.
okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay. Brings us to, moving right along. Here we go. Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival. Good. And let's see, what are we doing? Final
Are you
DIS.
looking for what?
Yeah, I've got it. Okay. All set? Sure.
Good evening, members of the planning board. I'm Adam Stollerow from Cy Pageant and Rizal. I'm the secret counsel for the project. And we're requesting that the planning board tonight adopt the revised draft scope as the final scope. We've been through a couple rounds of comments with the planning board and with AKRF since August. And at this point, all of the comments that we've received from the planning board, from AKRF, and from the public have been addressed. And subject to any questions you might have, we'd request that the scope be finalized so that we can move on with preparing the draft environmental impact statement.
Okay, thanks. I did read the minutes from last month. We had a public hearing on this, had some spirited input. Ron?
It's really Aaron.
Aaron?
Sure. So last month we had the scoping hearing. We had about 4 people come in. I think 3 of those comments weren't really exactly on the scope itself. They were more about just the project, which doesn't really count for the scoping process. One public comment was about the noise study, specifically asking the applicant to make sure that a musical concert is studied as part of their model, which they're proposing to do with with the revision they provided. There was also some comments from Peter, who's not here tonight, but he asked for some clarity on the traffic section, which they did as well. They've also answered all of AKRF's comments to my satisfaction. So I think it's in good position to be adopted. It would be, if adopted tonight, we would schedule it to be published in the DEC's environmental notice bulletin for next week. And then it would be circulated to the same agencies that got the draft scope. And they would be free to go ahead and prepare and submit that DEIS when they're ready to. And then we would review it for a completeness against that adopted scope. Just a couple of timing issues. You know, when they issued the draft scope and you adopted it as a draft, that was September 15th. Seeker requires 60 days for you to adopt a final. We negotiated with them a little bit past that because we wanted it to fall on tonight's meeting. So we're a little over 60 days, but you really are in the position tonight to adopt it. And if you don't, what they have presented would become the final scope automatically. So
Okay.
you're in a position to adopt.
Okay, Ron, you want to comment anything?
No, we haven't.
No, you're good?
Comments.
Steve, any words?
Well, unless the board has particular changes that they want to make to the scope, which they would have to do on a vote, the board is in a position now to have someone make a motion to accept the draft scope as the final scope, have a second and a vote on it.
Okay, any comments? Certainly.
I wasn't sure whether, and I may have missed it, but is there still a traffic light that's part of is there still an intention to try to get a traffic light as part of the plan for the project or not? Now that the traffic has been changed with respect to the Snake Hill entrance and
think it
et
is still,
cetera.
but I'll
I
let
just
the
wasn't
applicant
sure
answer
whether
that.
there's still a traffic light involved.
The traffic light is still in the proposal,
Okay.
part of the proposed action.
So the driveway off Snake Hill over the stream is no longer proposed. They're going to use the existing driveway over the dam.
Right. I
But
just
the-
didn't see anything about whether the traffic.
The light at the intersection of Snake Hill and 9 is still proposed.
Okay.
And I believe DOT has been reviewing it and has weighed in on it and is supporting it.
On page 3, we go through the proposed action and the items included in the proposed action. And item number 13, improvements to the intersection of Route 9 and Snake Hill Road, including...
Sorry about that.
Yep, no problem.
All right, well, if we don't have any other comments, we need a motion to adopt the draft scope as the final scope of the DEIS. Correct. Okay, go ahead. Anybody want to make the motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, second, Heidi, okay, all in favor? Aye. I vote aye. I think that's it.
Don't we have to make the second motion, didn't we accepted the draft and the final in one, or? I misheard.
You're adopting it as the final.
Oh, I see, okay.
Right, which we have to do or it happens automatically anyway.
Perfect.
Okay. Motion to dismiss.
No.
What? Or adjourn, sorry.
I'll make that motion.
One thing.
You're channeling your
There,
brother.
yeah, I listen, I think of my brother. Neil Zuckerman is being recognized by the Putnam History Museum
I thought it was a roast.
this Sunday. Just so you know. Good man, does a lot of good work for the community. Thank you.
I don't think we
Happy
made a
to-
motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
And second. I second.